There's a pattern that researchers who study long-term wealth accumulation keep encountering, and it contradicts nearly everything the financial industry has spent decades telling you. It isn't about income, it isn't about intelligence, and it has almost nothing to do with timing the market. What it has to do with is visibility, specifically the decision, made quietly, made once, and rarely spoken about, to become financially invisible. The people who make this decision don't announce it, they don't document it, and that's precisely why most people never notice it's happening, until one day they look up and realize someone they know has completely escaped a system they're still trapped inside.
There's a person in your life, you already know who they are, who never talks about money, never posts about their car, never mentions what they paid for their house, and yet somehow, quietly, without drama or announcement, they seem completely unbothered by the financial pressures that keep everyone else up at night. They take time off without panic. They replace a broken appliance without a credit card scramble. They make decisions, career decisions, life decisions that look suspiciously like freedom. And the strange part is, they don't look rich. Not in the way the word usually gets used. No visible performance, no curated lifestyle. Just a calm, steady kind of control that most people can't quite name. For a long time, the easy explanation was luck. Maybe they inherited something. Maybe they married into it. Maybe they just got the timing right on a house or a stock and rode the wave. That's a comfortable story. It keeps everything in place. It means the system isn't broken. They just got lucky and you didn't. But here is the crack in that explanation. Luck doesn't repeat. And yet, these people, the quiet ones, the unbothered ones, keep showing up decade after decade, in every income bracket, in every profession, with the same result. Not rich by accident, stable by design. That distinction matters more than almost anything else in personal finance, because what most people are actually building, even when they're doing everything they've been told to do, is not wealth. It is the appearance of wealth. And those two things have almost nothing in common. One is a trajectory, the other is a performance. One compounds, the other consumes. And the brutal truth is that the entire infrastructure of modern consumer culture, the advertising, the social comparison, the subtle pressure to signal status through spending, is specifically engineered to keep the two confused in your mind. Not because of conspiracy, simply because your consumption is someone else's revenue. So let's go deeper, because the surface level advice, spend less, save more, invest early, is not wrong, but it's incomplete in a way that matters. It treats wealth building as a discipline problem, as if the only thing standing between you and financial freedom is willpower. But the people who actually build lasting wealth aren't more disciplined than you. They've built systems that make discipline largely irrelevant. They've automated the gap between earning and deploying capital so consistently, so quietly, that wealth accumulation isn't something they do, it's something that happens to them, by design, while they live their lives. Here is what that actually looks like at the structural level. The first layer is the invisibility decision. Not minimalism as an aesthetic, not frugality as an identity. A deliberate, rational choice to stop converting income into social performance. Every dollar that doesn't get spent on signaling status becomes optionality. And optionality, the ability to choose, to wait, to say no, to take a risk, to walk away, is the actual product of wealth. Not the car, not the watch, the choice. When you internalize that distinction, your entire relationship with spending restructures itself, not because of motivation, but because of clarity. The second layer is automation, and this is where most people underestimate the architecture of the thing. An automatic transfer isn't just a savings habit, it's a psychological firewall. It removes the decision entirely. The money moves before it enters your spending consciousness, which means temptation never activates. It converts your future self from a hopeful abstraction into an actual financial beneficiary of decisions your present self makes today. The compounding effect here is not just financial, it's behavioral. Every month the system runs without you touching it, the identity of someone who builds wealth quietly gets reinforced in the background.
The third layer is the deployment of capital itself, and this is where most financial content either oversimplifies or overcomplicates. The quiet wealth builders are not geniuses at stock picking. They're patient deployers of capital into broad, low-cost structures that grow with the economy over decades. The S&P 500 has averaged close to 10% annually over the long run. That number isn't exciting. It's not meant to be. It's a structural truth about what happens when you stay in the game long enough. The people who lose aren't the ones who picked the wrong stock. They're the ones who stopped playing because the market got uncomfortable. Consistency is the edge, not sophistication. The fourth layer is what financial thinkers call the lifestyle freeze, and it is arguably the most powerful wealth accelerator that almost nobody talks about seriously. Every time your income rises and your expenses don't, you've increased the profit margin on your own life. You've widened the gap between what comes in and what goes out. That gap is the raw material of financial freedom. Lifestyle creep, the gradual, socially encouraged expansion of spending to match income, is not just a budgeting problem, it's a leverage problem. Every dollar that creeps into consumption is a dollar that stops working for you. The quiet wealth builders don't just earn more, they protect the gap, aggressively, quietly, without apology. The fifth layer is income diversification, not as a hustle, not as a grind, but as a structural risk reduction. One income source is a single point of failure. It means your entire financial trajectory depends on one relationship, the one between you and your employer or you and your clients. Adding a secondary income stream, even a modest one, changes the psychological baseline of your financial life. It introduces redundancy. It creates a separate channel of capital deployment that doesn't compete with your daily cost of living. Over 5 or 10 years, that second channel, built quietly on weekends, compounding steadily, can rival your primary income in a way that will surprise you. The sixth layer is protection, and here the conversation moves into territory most financial content skips entirely. Holding assets inside properly structured legal entities, an LLC, a trust, a holding company with a name that means nothing to anyone, is not just a tax strategy, it's an information strategy. When your name isn't attached to your assets in public databases, a whole category of social friction disappears. You don't get asked for loans you didn't offer. You don't become a target. Your financial life stays quiet because its architecture is quiet. This isn't about hiding. It's about control. The seventh layer is taxes, and specifically the gap between what most people pay and what they need to pay. Pre-tax retirement contributions don't just defer taxes, they reduce your taxable income today, which means less money leaves your ecosystem before it has the chance to compound. Pairing that with a Roth structure, which allows tax-free growth on the back end, creates a two-sided tax efficiency that most people never deploy together. The math on this over 30 years is not incremental, it is transformational. The difference between someone who optimizes their tax structure and someone who doesn't is measured not in hundreds of dollars, it's measured in decades of compounding on capital that would otherwise have left the building. The eighth layer is what I want to call the consistency weapon, and this is the one that most people intellectually understand, but emotionally fail at. The market will fall, your confidence will waver. Something external, a crisis, a headline, a conversation with a panicked friend, will make stopping feel rational. The people who build wealth quietly aren't immune to that feeling. They have simply decided in advance that the feeling doesn't govern the behavior. They keep the automatic transfers running. They keep the contributions going. They do not let the emotional volatility of the market interrupt the structural logic of the plan. And because they don't, time does the work that willpower never could. The ninth layer involves time itself, specifically the compounding advantage of beginning early and the permanent cost of waiting. If you invest $200 a month starting at 22 and your counterpart waits until 32 and doubles the contribution, you still finish ahead. Not because you were smarter or luckier, because time is a multiplier, and the first decade of compounding is disproportionately powerful. The people who understood this at 25 were not geniuses. They were simply given or found a clear picture of the math early enough to act on it early. The ELF layer is the emergency fund, which is one of the most misunderstood tools in personal finance. Most people treat it as a buffer, a passive pool of money that sits and waits for something bad to happen. But structurally, it's something more interesting than that. A fully funded emergency reserve held in a high-yield account, earning while it waits, creates two-sided tax efficiency that most people never deployed together. The math on this over 30 years is not incremental, it is transformational. The difference between someone who optimizes their tax structure and someone who doesn't is measured not in hundreds of dollars, it's measured in decades of compounding on capital that would otherwise have left the building. The ELF layer is what most people dismiss as soft, but which operates structurally at the level of identity. Anonymous generosity, giving without attribution, without social capital, without a post or a story. This isn't charity advice, it's a psychological rewiring tool. When you give without expectation of recognition, you are training your relationship with money at the deepest level, converting it, in your own mind, from a trophy into a tool. People who are afraid of losing wealth tend to hoard it and underspend even where it matters. People who have metabolized generosity into their financial identity tend to make cleaner decisions, bolder investments, cleaner exits, clearer priorities, because money has stopped being an identity prop and started being an instrument of actual freedom. And now take a step back and look at the full architecture of what we just built together. This isn't a list of hacks, it's a system, a quiet, compounding, self-reinforcing system built on the conversion of labor into freedom. Slowly